Hey everyone, welcome to Chapter 6, Section 1. It's titled Nth Roots and Rational Exponents. What it means by an nth root is that you're taking the square root of a number, but instead of it being a square root, it's cube root or fourth root, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. It could be any number, so that's why you just put n for number. And then a rational exponent is an exponent that is, has a fraction as the exponent, okay? So this first section here says find the indicated real nth root or roots of a for, and then it says n root a. So this is what I want you to do. I give you n, I give you a. I want you to write it as n is the root, and then a is the number that goes inside the radical. So you just put like the root inside the check mark of the radical. Now, the equivalent of writing this in the rational exponent form would be to say negative 216, and then it's going to become the 1/3 power. So if you're doing the square root, that's the 1/2 power. You're doing the third root, that's 1/3 power. If I'm doing the 20th root, it's the 1/20th power, okay? Anytime there's a negative, make sure you use parentheses. And I will have a separate video of how you type it into the calculator, but just know that you could type in either one of those answers, and the answer is -6, okay? Type in either one of those answers. Did I say that? Type in either one of those forms. Here I'm going to do the fourth root of 81 equals 81 to the 1/4 power, okay? And that's going to just equal 3. Only I need to write plus or minus 3. Why do I need to write plus or minus 3? Well, this statement right here, if the root is even, then the answer will have a plus or minus with it. So the root, remember, is that letter n. So if n is even, then your answer will have a plus or minus with it. Because the inverse of this is 3 to the 4th power is 81. And you could easily do -3 to the 4th power, and that'll also equal 81. So anytime you have an even number of negatives, when they're multiplying, they'll all cancel each other out. But if you had an odd number of negatives when you're multiplying, they won't cancel each other out. So that's why you don't have to put the plus or minus with the odd exponents, or the odd roots, I should say. So the third root of 8 is 8 to the 1/3, and then that's just going to equal 2, okay? So that's it for that section. Now this section will be in a separate video going over how to do it in the calculator, all right? But just know, I'll just write the answers for it just to do it. Letter A is going to be approximately 1.552, okay? Letter B, it's going to be, the approximation is going to have a plus or minus symbol because the bottom of each fraction is positive, and that's the root part of the fraction. I know these are different numbers on top, but because of that, you will have to have that plus or minus with it. So just type this into your calculator, and this is what you should get. About 5.788, okay? And letter C, typing that in, it's 7 to the 1/4 power. So again, I'm going to have a plus or minus for my answer. And let's see what I get here. Let me type it in my calculator. I get approximately 1.627. I'm just rounding everything to 3 decimal places. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Just remember to throw in the plus or minus if the root is even or the bottom of the fraction is even. So speaking of bottom of fractions, or fractions I should say, we're going to evaluate this by hand. And it's what I have written down in bold is what I basically just said. If the denominator of the fraction is even, then the answer will have a plus or minus with it. So looking at A and D, they both have even numbers in the denominator of the fraction. So I will have plus or minuses with them. So what I want you to do is I want you to rewrite each thing as, if I give it to you in the rational exponent form, I want you to write it in radical form. So writing in a radical form would be doing the square root of 16 to the third power. So what I did was I took the denominator and I used that as my root. And so, you know, if you don't write a number on the radical, then it's an understood square root or root 2. And then the number on top you can use as your power, okay? So doing square root of 16 to the third power, square root of 16, see, anytime you do a square root, you have a plus or minus, and that's an even root. Square root of 16 is 4, and 4 to the third power is plus or minus 64, okay? So that's what I want you to do as your teacher. I want you to convert it to this, simplify what's in the parentheses, and then do the exponent. You can always check your work by typing in 16 to the 3/2 power, and you should get 64, and then you just remember to write plus or minus 64. But this is showing by hand, so I need to see these steps leading up to the final answer. So for letter B, I'm given a negative exponent. So negative exponents mean fractions. So what you want to do is you want to take whatever it is and throw it on the bottom of a fraction, and now it's a positive exponent. So if I gave it to you already in fraction form, put it on the opposite side of the fraction that it's currently on. So if it's on the bottom, it moves to the top. If it's on the top, it moves to the bottom. That's what I mean. So now I'm doing 1 over 32, and I'm doing the fifth root of that, and I'm raising that answer to the third power. So the fifth root of 1 over 32 is 1 over 2. And 1 over 2 to the third power is just 1 over 8. And that's the final answer. Okay, so 5 was my denominator. That's an odd number. I'm not going to have a plus or minus. 2 is an even number. That's why I have a plus or minus. Letter C, 27, cube root it and square that answer. Sorry, that's my phone. Cube root of 27 is 3. And so I'm going to do 3 squared. And 3 squared equals 9. And then letter D, 4 is even. So I'm going to have a plus or minus. So I'm going to do the fourth root of 256. And that's going to equal plus or minus 4. And then I'm going to raise that to the third power. Oh yeah, I forgot to set it up. The fourth root of 256 to the third power. All right, so the fourth root of 256 is plus or minus 4, and raise that to the third power. That's plus or minus 64, and that's going to wrap it up for the notes. So that's how I want you to, oh no, I skipped one. Oh, how dare I. This one is the fifth root of -1, or -1, parentheses, to the 1/5 power. Either way, that's going to equal -1. So if I ask you a question like this, I want you to show these 3 steps. And then if I ask you a question like this, I want you to show these 3 steps. And if I ever give you a negative exponent, there's one extra step, and that's converting it to a positive exponent. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for these notes. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for others. Bye.